Okay, it is 6:15. I'd like to call this meeting of the Belton Independent School District Board of Trustees to order. A quorum of board members is present. This meeting has been duly called, and a notice of the meeting has been posted in accordance with the Texas Open Meetings Act, Texas Government Code 551. At this time, we're going to rise for a moment of silent prayer or meditation. Please remain standing for the Texas pledge as well. Please join me in the American flag pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And now the Texas flag. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible. All righty then. The next item on our agenda is public comments. Connie, do we have anyone signed up for public comments? Okay. So we'll get started with recognitions in just a second. I do want to just announce that right after recognitions, we're going to start our regular portion of our board meeting. So if you're welcome to stay if you want to, but you don't have to. So after your persons have been recognized, you are free to go or stay for the regular portion of the meeting. And so at this time, we'll get started with our recognitions. Thank you, Ms. Elizabeth.
Yes, ma'am. Good evening, Madam President and trustees. First up this evening, we're going to recognize Belton ISD's National Merit Commended Scholar. The National Merit Program has recognized Belton High School senior Gautam Gamande as a Commended Scholar for 2021. Each year, more than 1.5 million high school students take the preliminary SAT National Merit Scholar qualifying test. Of those, just 50,000 qualify for the National Merit Program, including 34,000 selected as commended students. While commended students do not continue on to compete for National Merit Scholarships, they are often candidates for special awards sponsored by other organizations. Congratulations, Gautam. And I had to mention that Gautam was here with us last month as well. He's a return recognition. He was received some AP Scholar designations as well. Okay. Our next recognition of the evening is our National Merit semifinalists. We're really proud of the results Belton High School saw with this program this year. The National Merit Program has recognized Belton High School seniors Mitchell Bonner, Benjamin Broom, and Zane Williams as semifinalists in the National Merit Scholarship Program for their performance on the preliminary PSAT. To qualify as a National Merit semifinalist, the student's high scores on the PSAT place them in the top 1% of more than 1.5 million students who took the test last fall. As the next step in the scholarship competition, Mitchell Bonner, who's here with us tonight, and his fellow National Merit semifinalists will submit essays, recommendations, and additional test scores to the National Merit Scholarship Corporation. Finalists will be announced between April and June of 2021. Congratulations, Mitchell. And our next award of the evening is we're shifting gears and awarding staff. They'll start making this way, the Texas Council for the Social Studies NOVA Award. Lake Belton Middle School 6th grade social studies teacher Kristen Atwood was recently honored by the Texas Council for the Social Studies with their annual NOVA, or Early Career Educator Award. Given to a single outstanding social studies teacher at the elementary or secondary level who has completed at least 1 year of teaching and is now in his or her second or third year of teaching, Ms. Atwood was celebrated statewide as the only educator to receive this award for her exceptional learning experiences that she's creating for our students here in Belton ISD. Congratulations, Mrs. Atwood. Our next award of the evening is our Rotary Educator of the Month for the Temple Rotary Club. Amanda Gonzel is being recognized by the Temple Rotary Club for her outstanding service to Belton ISD. Amanda serves as a kindergarten teacher at Charter Oak Elementary. She is in her 4th year in education and her 2nd year with Belton ISD. Ms. Gonzel's approach to learning is intentional, well-planned, and always highly engaging. She has a deep understanding of the learning standards and child development. Ms. Gonzel spends time daily focusing on the social emotional needs of her individual students and of her class as a whole. She is also a natural leader and consistently collaborates with her team and other teachers at school. She has also utilized her skills to host and mentor a student teacher to prepare them for their own classroom. Mrs. Connor, principal at Charter Oak Elementary, stated, "I cannot say enough about Amanda. She is a humble and quiet leader among many strong educators. Her intelligence and compassion are the perfect combination to make her an outstanding educator, and one that I am proud to nominate for the Temple Rotary Educator of the Month." Congratulations. Our next award this evening is for Rotary Educator of the Quarter from the Belton Rotary. Laurel Baldwin is being recognized by the Belton Rotary Club for her outstanding service to Belton ISD. Laurel serves as a second grade teacher at Miller Heights Elementary. She is in her 10th year in education and her second year with Belton. Mrs. Baldwin has experience working with children in rural and urban populations in New Hampshire and in Texas. She enjoys learning about cultural diversity and the impact of socioeconomics on education. She has used this passion to provide professional development to her colleagues at Miller Heights. In addition, Laurel is always seeking new challenges, and this year she has embarked on new learning as she is serving as a virtual teacher for at-home learners. Thank you. Michelle McKeska, assistant principal at Miller Heights Elementary, stated, "Mrs. Baldwin is a phenomenal educator with a heart for children. She ensures that each and every student is academically successful while fostering a sense of community and a love of school." Congratulations. And last but certainly not least this month, National Principals Month. Woo-hoo. Board members, please go ahead and make your way down. Yep. Yeah, we're going to let you shake hands with them as they walk by. So you can shake hands and stuff like that with them. Yep. Yeah. Do you, man? Yeah, feel free to. It's just a way to get to say. I knew I should have started reading before the boisterous group gets up there and I start trying to take a picture. Yeah. It's less than 15 minutes. Okay. Okay, principals, now for the formal part. Each October, National Principals Month recognizes the essential role that principals play in making a school great. The success of Belton ISD as a district is a direct result of the hard work of our campus principals and what they do on behalf of our students and staff, and it is very worthy of this annual recognition. Belton ISD principals are Sheila Cervic, Belton Early Childhood School, Jennifer Connor, Charter Oak Elementary, Elizabeth McMurtry, Chisholm Trail Elementary, Carrie Zepernick, High Point Elementary, Marcy Beck, Leon Heights Elementary, Dr. Becky Musel, Lakewood Elementary, Hope Orsag, Miller Heights Elementary, Rebecca Vaughn, Pirtle Elementary, Dawn Schiller, Southwest Elementary, Julie Manley, Sparta Elementary, Aubrey Brooke Itz, Tarver Elementary, Chris Hobson, Lake Belton Middle School, Michelle Tisch, North Belton Middle School, Kevin Taylor, South Belton Middle School, Ben Smith, Belton High School, Genesee Thomason, Belton New Tech High School at Wasco, Jill Ross, Lake Belton High School, and Sandy Garrett at our DAEP. Congratulations, principals. We appreciate you.
I'm telling you, there's no party like a principal party. Whoop, whoop. Okay, I think we can go ahead and safely move on to the next portion of our agenda. It's the consent agenda. I do know that item 4I will need to be pulled, and Dr. Smith is going to speak on that for just a moment.
Yeah, Board, just so you know, item 4I is a joint appointment with us and the City of Belton for the County Appraisal District seat, and we're still working through that final piece of that, and we will bring that to you next month. So there's no hurry on that one. We just wanted to make sure we had some additional collaboration time with the City of Belton.
Okay, so does the board have does any member of the board wish to have any other item pulled for further discussion? If not, is there a motion to approve with the exception of 4I? Mr. Taggart, I see you as a motion to approve. Is there a second? I could stand. Thank you, Dr. Montgomery, for a second. All in favor, please raise your hand. That's all of us. Thank you. Ah! This almost became another kind of party. Awesome. One thing for sure, you just never really know what's going to come from this dais. Okay, so moving on to our public hearing, get on to the serious stuff. Oh no, let's go. Let's do it. Dr. Smith.
Madam President, members of the board, I welcome Jennifer Land up tonight. Jennifer is going to take us through the first public report for Belton ISD and also the public hearing portion of this.
Thank you. Good evening, Madam President, Board of Trustees, Dr. Smith, and our stakeholders. Thank you for joining us tonight to have some input or to hear about our Financial Integrity Rating System of Texas report. Let me make sure. Okay, this is working. So the first system was adopted with the 1999 legislative session. It was authorized in 2001 and implemented in 2003. The information to build the first report is taken from staff, student, and financial data reported to TEA through the PEAM system, as well as some components of the annual financial report. There have been a couple of major overhauls in first, with the last being 2018, and the changes that are brought about from the 2018 legislative session will be implemented in the 2021 rating year, which is based on data from the 2019-20 audit, which we are currently underway with. Am I doing that? I'm sorry. The primary goals of FIRST include assessing the quality of the district's finances, measuring the level of funds allocated to district for instruction, allocated by the district for direct instruction, evaluating financial management decisions, improving the management of district financial resources, and increasing financial accountability. The 2020 FIRST indicators include 15 originally, but only 14 are scored because one indicator is not rated. It remains for comparison purposes. When you look at the allocation of ratings for the FIRST, districts can either receive an A, B, C, or F. Districts receiving an A rating must score at least 90 points or more on their combined total for the indicators. The FIRST system is divided into 3 categories. There are the critical indicators, the solvency indicators, and the financial competence indicators. In the past, there were 5 indicators, but there are only 4 that we are graded on now because, as I've previously mentioned, one of the indicators is no longer rated. All of those critical indicators are considered such because in order to be eligible to receive a point total and a letter grade other than F, you have to pass each of these 5 or these first 4 indicators. They are all based on yes/no responses. Anything receiving a no means that you automatically fail the FIRST rating. Indicator 1 is to ensure that the annual financial report is filed in a timely manner. Indicator 2 requires that the annual financial report have a clean or unmodified opinion. Indicator 3 is assessing whether or not the district has paid all debt obligations. And indicator 4 looks at whether or not timely payments were submitted to TRS, the IRS, or other payroll-related obligation entities. So here is indicators 1 through 5. Since I've already talked about those, we're going to skip to 6. But with 1 through 5, we passed each of those as we did in the previous year. So when we start looking at indicator 6 measures how long after the end of the fiscal year a district could have gone before having a cash flow concern. Indicator 7 measures the debt ratio, which is assessing whether or not we had sufficient short-term assets to pay off short-term liabilities. Indicator 8 measures whether our assets exceed our debts. This is an indicator that because we are a fast growth district, we automatically receive the full points. We received all 10 points with each of these indicators as we did in prior year. Indicator 9 asks the question, did you spend more money than you earned? Indicator 10 measures the district's ability to make bond debt principal and interest payments. And indicator 11 measures the percentage of the budget spent on administration, which is considered the administrative cost ratio. We successfully earned all 10 points on each of those indicators this year, as we did in prior years. Indicator 12 looks at the student to staff ratio, and it also, because this is also one of those measures or indicators that as a fast growth district in which enrollment did not increase, we automatically receive full points. Indicator 12 looks at the quality of our financial data that's submitted to TEA through our PEAM system, and it compares it to the information that was submitted from our financial audit. Indicator 14 looks at our compliance efforts related to federal and state grants, and we receive the full points because we are in compliance with that indicator or with those rules. Indicator 15 asks whether the district had to ask for a payment plan to return any money that may have been given to us from TEA based on our state aid. We have not been in that situation. So with indicators 12 through 15, we also successfully received all 10 points this year as we did in prior years. As you can see, Belton ISD received a perfect score and a superior rating. The first management report is posted on the district's website, and that report includes additional information. So with this being a public hearing, I would like to open the floor to any questions or comments related to Belton ISD's Financial Integrity Rating Systems of Texas report.
Does the board have any questions? We do not.
So, Madam President, can we close the public hearing at this time?
We will officially close the public hearing. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we will now move on to our Facilities Committee report, and our committee chair, Mr. Ty Taggart, if you'll get us started.
All right, good evening. Just want to tell our Madam President, thank you so much for letting me go first with the committee reports tonight. I find it hard to follow Manuel sometimes. He's a lot better, more polished than me, so thank you for this opportunity. Really what we discussed in the last meeting, we're just trying to maybe fit in a couple of projects in the Christmas holidays, I think is what we're going to look at this next go-around, this next meeting on Wednesday. See if we can, we've got that extra money left over from our savings from the $3.5 million, so it would be nice if we could fit a couple things into the Christmas holidays, depending on what David and his crews can do. So I think that's going to kind of be on the horizon. I think driving around, our playground equipment's been coming along really well on our campuses. I've been seeing that, and I've got a thank you card here I'll read here in just a minute from a pleased parent, so this is really cool. And then really what we're going to focus on, I think, going forward here in the next couple months is just starting to open the conversations and open our minds to the long-range planning, just with Mike Morgan and the firm that we've hired, kind of with them compiling all this stuff and the data coming back in March. Then we'll really have an idea of what we can put together for our future projects and long-term spending. So I really don't have a lot to offer any different than last meeting. We're kind of in a holding pattern until that report comes out and with some budget stuff and everything. But here's a thank you and little puppy on the front. So that's always a all moment already. So, and it's got glitter all over it. So I'll have glitter on me all night, but it's awesome. So this sweet lady wrote this thank you card to us. It says, Belton ISD School Board, I wanted to thank you so much for the new playground equipment that was delivered to Tarver Elementary this week. All the children are so excited to see what it all will be. As a mama of 3 at Tarver and a 6th grader at North Belton Middle School, I am just overjoyed that our children were given this wonderful gift. This has been a very trying year, but we so appreciate all the hard work. You guys are wonderful, and we are all so thankful. And can I say her name? Can I? Okay, Allison Clinton Lee and her family, and she's got a 6-year-old, not quite sure on the spelling of the name there, but she's got a 6-year-old, an 8-year-old, a 9-year-old Cannon and Ryder, and Meadow is 11 years old. That must be the North Belton. But they gave us this little thank you card, so that's always nice to see that. And I know what it was like when, years and years ago when I was in elementary and we got to go outside and play on all that dangerous equipment and slides and tires and whatever that thing we spun around really, really fast and fell off, and it was awesome. But nowadays we got new stuff for kids to play on, so it's nice to see that stuff coming to fruition. So yeah, that's it.
That's definitely our why. We want to make sure that our kiddos have what they need, and if they have what they need, their moms and dads have what they need. That's an awesome thank you card.
Yep.
That is awesome. Thank you, Mr. Taggart. Does anybody have any questions about Mr. Taggart's report? Any comments? We'll move on then. So we'll go over to our policy committee report by our committee chair, Mr. Manuel L. Kozer.
Thank you, Madam President. I'm going to report to you guys from our October 5, 2020 meeting. We discussed 4 or 5 policies. The first one was CW Local, which is like a sentence long, and it has to do with naming buildings, facilities, that kind of thing. And basically, when I looked at it, I was a bit surprised. But basically, it says that after a facility is complete, then you go in there and just put the names of the superintendent, architects, board members, and put the plaque on the wall. I mean, that's basically it. So one of the things that has come up here recently is, and as we grow, we're going to have more facilities. We're going to have more buildings, more fields, and this issue is going to rise where people are going to want to maybe name a field after someone or a building after someone. Like this is the Pittenger building, okay? So we really don't have, let me correct that. We don't have a process in place that we need to follow when we're going to try and name a building. So I think Mike Morgan put a few things together for us, and Matt made some comments about it, and looked at other districts and what they've done. Some of these, in my view, are quite elaborate, and it seems like it's more of an, if I was a member of one of those districts, I don't know if I'd want to even make the request because it's so difficult. It's like an act of Congress, to get something named. Of course, you don't want to make it too easy, but you want to try and get the gist of these policies is to get the community involved, get students involved. And one of the policies had 4 items in it. It said that the naming of a building, for example, had to be meaningful to students, community leaders, had to be a source of pride for the community, and had to reflect the traditions of the district. So how do you get there? Well, there's a way, if you look at that particular policy, that they think that they get there by putting these steps in place. So what we decided was, why don't we put something together by taking bits and pieces of different policies from different districts and putting one together for us to look at it. So this, of course, wasn't part of the consent agenda. There's no first reading or nothing. We're just kind of looking at this right now. So I think what we decided to table it, put something together, bring a skeleton to us so we can look at it and maybe add some meat to it, right?
Yes, that's correct. Mike and I are meeting on this one, and we will bring the policy committee some ideas moving forward, and we'll continue to massage that policy in the policy committee until you're ready to move it forward to a full board discussion.
Okay. Then the next one we talked about was, Ty, here we go again, BF local. So Ty's, he's sometimes bewildered by these abbreviations, like the B is local governance. But anyway, the BF local, when we started these committee meetings, you know how we have the first reading and the second reading? We're trying to be more efficient. So if we're going to have, for example, a policy committee meeting, and we're going to look at a policy, digest it, and it'll be our first reading, why would we wait to have 2 more meetings before we can adopt the policy or bring it to the board as a whole? So when we looked at our policies and procedures, we really didn't have in place where, for example, the policy committee could act as the first reading. So we changed that. And as a matter of fact, we adopted it today because it's on page 69 of your packets on the consent agenda. So that particular policy is in line with Go 5, which is to maximize use of resources. So what we're doing is we're just trying to be more efficient. So if the policy or the facilities committee does something and it somehow affects policy, then we don't have to look at it. That can be the first reading, and the second reading can be when we come together as a board. So we changed that. It was just changing like a sentence. So now we're in line with what we've been doing to begin with. So that was the second one we looked at. The third one we looked at was DBAA local, which is on page 75 of the consent agenda, which is something that Todd Schiller brought to our attention. And the other one was DED local, which is on page 77 of the consent agenda. Now, both of those policies are in line with Goal 3, which is basically, I'll just do my own summary of it. It's basically, we gotta attract top-notch people, okay? I mean, that's what we want to have in this district. We want to attract and retain top-notch folks. So DBAA local has to do with what we do in terms of investigating a criminal history and doing a credit report. Like, for example, if an employee comes to us and they're going to be working for Jennifer Land, or they're going to be handling money in somebody's office, and obviously we need to do a credit check on them, okay, along with a potential criminal history. So, and this was actually recommended by TASB. We didn't have this policy in place, but as Todd indicated, this is basically what they've been doing anyway. So it's just a mirror image of what we've been doing as a district anyway, so it's nothing new. And then DED local had to do with vacation days, and it addresses those employees whose positions normally require 260 days of service annually. So it had to do with vacation days, and again, it's just, that particular policy is just a mirror image of what human resources has been doing anyway. And that also, again, it's in line with Go 3, which is to attract and retain, great folks for our district. And then the last one we looked at was BJCD legal and BJCD local, which has to do with our superintendent. And we are required by law, I mean, there's a legal and a local here, but we're required by law to do an evaluation on our superintendent. And once we do that, we give him that report, and then If you want to do open, you can do open. If you want to do closed, then we meet and talk about it in closed session. One other thing that I want to point out is in the annual performance evaluation that we do, the law says that we are to look at the numbers in terms of what the state says has reflected in terms of our performance. So if we look at that grade that we're getting, then we have to think about that when we evaluate Matt, okay? And we know there's a lot more factors in that than just that particular letter. So that's what, we didn't, there was no, that wasn't on the consent agenda or anything. We didn't make any changes. We didn't do anything other than Matt brought that to our attention because evaluation is coming up. Is that accurate, Matt?
Yes, sir. Over the next month, we'll have to settle on an evaluation instrument that is used for my evaluation, which is actually in January. And so the initial discussion was just to familiarize the policy committee with that policy.
Right, and of course, it's a violation of law for us not to do that, and we can be sanctioned by the state for not doing that, so.
And we do have a tool in place that we've used in the past, but that doesn't really fit the scenario today. So that's why we're looking at the various options for new tools.
And our president was at our meeting, actually, along with Chris, Dr. Montgomery. So anyone have any questions, comments?
That was a very well-run meeting. Thank you for having me.
Okay. You need to attend more often. We'll be glad to have you. Or anyone else. Jeff, you can come sometime. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, sir. Any comments or questions about his report? Well done. Thank you. So we'll move on to the next item on our agenda. It's the annual board member training credit report. Typically in the past, since I've been on this board, it's said that, all members have passed or exceeded and all of those things. But we have a new tool that it's going to be a little bit more extensive than that. So just bear with me. So under the State Board of Education rule, completing required education, continuing education each year of service is a basic obligation and expectation of any sitting board member. We know that. I just want to remind you of that. I'm required to announce the name of each member who, as of the member's anniversary of election or appointment to the board, has completed the required continuing education, has exceeded the required continuing education, or is deficient in meeting the required continuing education. There are 4 tiers or categories of board members' continuing education. There's Tier 1, which is orientation and legal update training. That won't apply this evening because we don't have any new board members. There's Tier 2, that's the team building training with all the board members and the superintendent. I'm pleased to announce that we met that. All board members and superintendent was present, so we've met that particular obligation. And we're moving on to Tier 3, the annual, the following board, all board members have completed the Tier 3 annual continuing education requirements. Now, I'm going to pause there for just a second. I do want to say that, we're in COVID times, and so it's been difficult to get these continuing education credits in the normal way. Traditionally, we'd go to San Antonio in about June and spend a few days out there and sign up for all of these courses and just have a heck of a good time learning on how best to serve in our respective areas and how best to serve our communities. We were not afforded that opportunity. However, things were offered to us virtually, and so because of that, we were able to meet these obligations. On Tier 4, then all of our board members met that particular one. That's evaluating and improving student outcome training. All of us met that obligation. I want to thank you all for that. And now let's get to the real meat and potato of what I'm so excited to share about. I just told you a moment ago it was hard enough to get the training, but guess what? All of our board members exceeded the expectations. I'm proud to tell you that board member Manuel Alcozer exceeded the required amount of required continuing education training by 7.5 hours, additional hours. Board member Chris Floor exceeded the required amount of required training by 7 additional hours. Board Member Janet Lee exceeded the required amount of continuing education training by 10.5 hours, additional hours. Suzanne McDonald exceeded the total amount of required training by 19.5 hours, additional hours. Rosie Montgomery exceeded the required amount of required continuing education training by 9.5 additional hours. Jeffrey Norwood exceeded the required amount of continuing education training by 6.25 additional hours. Board Member Ty Taggart exceeded the required amount of continuing education training by 3.25 additional hours. Board, I have to tell you that I am so proud of us. Even in this time, when things didn't seem like we were going to ever get back to normal, we have exceeded. And what that means for this community is we are continual learners. We are learning how best to serve this community. And I'm so proud of each and every one of us. Thank you for the service that you give to this district. You guys are rock stars in my book. Greatly appreciate you. Y'all have any comments or questions about that? Say it again. Rock stars! Rock stars! Okay. All righty then. That was fun to do. Okay, so the next item is our TASA TASB convention report. That was an opportunity, a virtual opportunity for us to learn some things, and I tell you that those pre-recorded sessions are still out there for a limited amount of time. If there's something out there you just want to revisit. Does any member of the board want to just report out anything that they saw, attended, that struck them as just way, way interesting? I'll start up here at the top and move down to the floor. Dr. Montgomery.
So I really enjoyed the keynote speaker talking about happiness and the happiness advantage, and I think in this day and time,
Anchor, yeah.
really paying attention to those cognitive messages is vital. The second one that I very much enjoyed was the conference that talked about mental health and suicide prevention and how different districts are handling that and how they are bringing in extra support for our kids. And we know that we're in different times now and that our kids are challenged. And it's exciting to know that districts and administrations are taking the time to respect the impact of mental health on learning and to do what's right for kids. So it was a great
Thank you.
session. Thank you.
Dr. Smith, would you like to share out?
You know, just a couple of real quick things. I was just looking at the list of sessions that I attended. A lot of them were on legislative updates and things, so you heard a little bit about that with redistricting tonight. I also attended the one on the happiness advantage, and I do think we have some important discussions that we need to have as a team of 8 about how we effectively support the social emotional health of our school district, whether it's our teachers or our students and our community that we serve, because it is a challenging time out there right now, and that really rang true with me in that session. And then finally, I attended a session on exceptional governance and action for student success, and that's a program that TASB has put on, and I look forward to talking to you all more about that in the future.
Thank you. I'll just share out that I attended quite a few sessions. A couple of them that I want to share with you is getting your SPED operating procedures ready. I think that's very, very important, and there was a lot of valuable information in that. I do have the PDF if anybody is interested. I don't mind sharing that out. The other thing that is key is the cybersecurity. I attended a session on that with just virtually the world being online right now. Cybersecurity, it's never on the back burner. It's something we all think about, but I think that if you've not looked at your policies and procedures, now is a good time to brush off the dust on that one. And the keynote, I very much enjoyed Sean Anker for the first opening session, but I also very much enjoyed Cynthia Marshall. She's the CEO of the Dallas Mavericks, and her focal points were leadership, diversity, inclusion, and cultural transformation. And I have a really cool fairness slide that I will absolutely share out with you all. She has a slide that's called My 2 Cents, and one of the things that's at the top of the mountain that I really enjoyed reading is embrace your sisters and brothers, we need each other. So I very much enjoyed that. Ms. Jalkhoser. I'll go to the floor. Anybody on the floor? Mr. Floor on the floor?
The floor.
Chris Floor.
Yeah, I got to tell you, like, I wasn't necessarily looking forward to doing a bunch of these online, and I was pleasantly surprised. There were a lot of really great sessions, and you know, certainly the opening session that actually everybody has already talked about. I mean, I think really hit home. You know, about happiness and joy, and you know, kind of changing the mindset, especially now, and needing that more than ever. And so I certainly agree with Dr. Smith's comments about. I think there's some conversations we could have to maybe bring some of what the speaker spoke about to the district here. Also related to that, there's a session called Take the Wheel, Steer the Public's Conversations About Your Schools. I think that kind of overlapped and supplemented and complemented that opening session. And so the two of those sessions to me really hit home for, you know, current times and how do we go forward. Went to one on cyberbullying. I went to St. Marshall's presentation as well. I think lots of legal updates, but you know, I think it comes down to those two about just kind of the mindset that really hit home for me. And I know the sessions I think are still open through the 2nd, and so I hope to check off a couple more. My list is long, so yeah.
Anyone else?
I also enjoyed the happiness talk. In fact, I ordered the book. It came the next day, and I took it on the weekend with me and started reading it. It's great, and I think it applies to so many areas of life right now for so many reasons. The other one, I always enjoy listening to Joy Baskin's legal updates. She's entertaining, she's funny, she's cute, she's just bubbly, and she makes me happy. And her presentation was hysterical. And you know, aside from the fact that they do give a lot of really good tips for boards in regard to legal issues that you don't want to run into that could be sticky, and they help you. They give you a lot of guidelines with that. But the presentation was animated and theatrical, and it made me think about how creative our teachers are being, and how that one session stuck with me over all the others because they mixed it up and they made it so fun. So
I very much enjoyed that one too. Okay, anyone else? Okay, well, thank you all for that. We'll just move right on to our next item, which is Superintendent's report.
I'm going to take my mask off for this one and hopefully move through this rather quickly tonight. We'll see if my clicker works. And so, Rachel, can you help us out with this monitor as well? So in the superintendent's report for this month, there are 3 topics that we're going to be going over, and those 3 topics are really just to provide you as a board of trustees with information on what is happening here in Belton ISD, and we'll wait just a minute for that to be pulled up. Couple of things that I think is important to point out right now is we are a growing school district. I know numbers are important to everyone, and so we're doing our best to provide you comparison information with where we were last year. We are at 12,611 students enrolled as of today, and that is plus 415 students as compared to the 30th day of school last year, which today is apparently the 30th day of school, which I learned earlier today. 76.1% of our students are at-school learners, and 23.9% are at-home learners. As you probably noticed, that's an increase in about 5% since our last superintendent's report. So we do have more students coming back to us face-to-face at this time, and we are down to about 23.9% at-home learners. Just for comparison's sake, I was at a event in Georgetown ISD, and sat next to a superintendent from the San Antonio area, a very large school district, was talking to him, and he shared with me that only about 40% of his students in a school district of about 100,000 students are face-to-face right now. So just to show you the varying nature of the challenge that we have in front of us across the state of Texas, this superintendent is an outstanding superintendent, has been state and nationally recognized, and the challenges are real that a lot of districts are facing. But I am, as I have said many times, really proud that we have so many of our students face-to-face. A lot of that is a result of proper safety and mitigation measures that we've had in place, and that tells me that our families feel comfortable sending their students to school, and they know that if we have students in front of us, we can do great things for them. So I am excited to see that number continue to increase. I also want to be very deliberate in saying that I am okay with whatever percentage of students need to stay home. What has been eye-opening for me is that each individual family in Belton ISD and in other school districts has their own challenges that they are facing during this pandemic. I do not know the story of each individual family, but I do know families have been heavily impacted by COVID-19. And so if a family chooses to keep their student at home at this time for at-home learning, our job is to provide the best learning experience that we can possibly provide them as we all navigate this together. So while I'm excited to have those students continue to come back to school, I am also deeply committed to making sure that our students that are at home have the best learning experience possible. Highlights from the month. I'm going to show you a few pictures from my visits at various events and things in the classroom, the courts, the fields, the hallways, and I'm seeing great things for our students. And as Suzanne mentioned a little bit earlier, that's our why behind all of this, what we do for our kids. One of the most important things I think we need to talk about right now is the idea of teacher support and recognition. This world that our teachers are living through right now is vastly different than it was at this time last year. So while we say our school district is increasing in enrollment, we have to remember that, yes, that is consistent with last year, but the game has changed dramatically for our teachers in the classroom. We're really proud and thankful again. I want to recognize the board in supporting us in opening in scenario 4, because what that allowed us to do was to provide 3 professional learning days and planning days for our teacher during that month. And I don't know of another school district around that invested that in their teachers. And so I'm extremely thankful for you, because that effort right there shows our teachers and demonstrates to our teachers how much you care about their success and their being able to manage this challenging situation. In turn, we also have in scenario 3 now the early release Wednesdays. And I know that that is a challenge for some families, and I want to very publicly acknowledge that. Our families are giving up additional time for having their students in school. But again, by investing in our teachers and allowing them even an hour a week to be able to have additional time for planning is something that is extremely important. We have students that end up being quarantined and come back into the classroom. We have students that are at-home learners, and our teachers are the ones that are having to figure out the learning trajectory or the learning progression for each and every one of those students, no matter their individual learning needs. And so I thank you for providing those opportunities. We are going to continue to ask our teachers what they need for support along the way. That's a tricky conversation to have, because there are some things that we might not be able to provide right now, but we don't know unless we ask them what is really on their minds. And so we're going to be opening up a thought exchange coming up and some listening sessions with our teachers so that we can hear loud and clear from them how we can best support them moving forward. A couple of things that I think are great that are continuing along the way. I applaud Todd Schiller and Calvin Itz and our HR department. They have been out handing out our service award pins that we weren't able to hand out last year, and they have also been out handing out those big red heart awards. And while those might seem like little things, in the midst of all of this challenge, the fact that we are out there recognizing these amazing teachers and the work that they're doing, I think is a testament to our HR department and their focus on our teachers. And I want to thank them for their efforts in that area. Over the last month, I've also had the opportunity to do a couple of community presentations. We went over and presented at Fort Hood, talked a little bit about our programs in Belton ISD and Fort Hood, and we also presented to the Temple Lions Club recently. And I'm getting to learn and know our community and the diverse groups that we serve in Belton ISD through these presentations. Finally, the highlight of the month, definitely one of them was the dedication of Lake Belton High School. I thank you for your participation in that event. It was definitely different than any kind of dedication ceremonies that I've seen in the past, but we had to be a little different. And one of the things that really struck me in all of it was, in its simplicity, it was really grand in my mind, because we were focused on the kids and the performances and the facilities that were there to serve our kids. And so I thank you for your presentation and your attendance in that. And also, I wanted to point out, we hosted community tours at Lake Belton High School this weekend. Special thanks to our communications department. They are rock stars, and they got a system together. We kind of paired it with a beef tennis tournament that was held there as well, and so we had the ability to have our community come in through sign-up times and see Lake Belton High School. I spent quite a bit of time there over the weekend and got to see a number of groups that would come through, and it was fascinating because you would see a 5-year-old with a Belton Tiger shirt on, so you know that probably has a long history of Belton Tiger support there. In the same group would be grandparents of people, and so there's a lot of interest in the community in that building. You heard people say things like, I've been driving by this and I just wanted to stop and see it, or I'm a retired teacher and I wanted to come back and see it. So we were able to show off that facility that our voters made happen and that our board made happen. Thank you for allowing us to do that, and thank you for providing that facility for our kids. This next slide is just a collage of some of the pictures and some of the highlights that I wanted to share with you. One of the things that I think is a challenge in all of this is we hear and we're drowned in COVID topics all the time. And while we might have masks on in a lot of the pictures that you see below, there are events that are happening and great learning experiences that are happening throughout our schools each and every week, each and every day. I do my best to make sure I'm on campuses every week. I know last week I was out at Sparta Elementary School, and in Sparta, I was floored by seeing all these fourth graders, masks on, engaged in a writing process, teacher sitting down on the floor with a student, conferencing about their writing, talking about taking their writing to the next level. And so I share those things because sometimes we're getting hung up on all the COVID mitigation strategies and stuff, and we forget to remember that great learning opportunities are happening every day on our campuses thanks to the work of our teachers. A couple of the other pictures that you see there, you see one that's outdoors, and that's at Belton Middle School, some tables out there. That's an art teacher actually facilitating art class outside. So being able to spread the students out, use the natural setting that they have there, and engage in continued art learning was pretty special to me. New Tech is the picture over to the right of that, and you see some of our students in New Tech working on their devices there and getting down to business. And then I put a picture of the playground equipment down there. You see that at Southwest Elementary, that playground equipment was being installed. Want to do a special shout out and thank you to the Marshall family. Their dedication to support beef and a scholarship for our ROTC students was definitely appreciated, and you see that picture there as well. I have to say, in our athletic events, in our classrooms, my thanks to our community because I see a lot of compliance and support with mask wearing, and I know it's a pain. But I also know that the best way for us to keep kids in class, in school, and fans in the stands is to continue to do these mitigation strategies. So when these positive cases do pop up, we're able to not have that close contact tracing and sending people home. So I wanted to say a special thank you to all of our community, all of our teachers, and all of our students for their continued effort in that area, because I know it's a challenge. A couple of other things on COVID updates for us all. As you all know, we went to scenario 3, and I am proud to report that means we're 5 days a week of face-to-face instruction here in Belton ISD. We did that at the beginning of the month here in October, and I do need to acknowledge that it's a challenge. There are a lot of moving parts in all of this, and I'm thankful for the work of our teachers. We still have the at-home learning option. I know that there's been some discussion around the state of smaller districts saying we're done with at-home learning, and I understand that mentality a little bit because I agree with Chris's comment earlier. I was generally pleasantly surprised by my online learning at the TASB convention, but I can tell you I'd still rather be face-to-face. And so I do understand what some districts are thinking, but it's good for us to remember that we still have about 3,000 students that are remote learners in our district, and we're working to meet their needs whatever way possible. Mask wearing in scenario 3 is still required. As I've mentioned, we still have the hour early dismissal on Wednesdays. For those that didn't know, we do have a calendar posted online that says what Wednesdays of the school year is the hour early dismissal so that our teachers can collaborate and plan. Student and staff safety precautions are obviously still in full effect. You see a lot of people using the hand sanitizing stations. I was generally impressed with visit to New Tech High School when I stopped by a week or so ago, and I was talking to Genesee in the hallway, and she said, "Oh, I got to come right back." Genesee had a duty that she had to do, and her duty was actually disinfecting the tables so another group of students could use those tables. So these systems that are in place in our schools are pretty impressive when you go out and you see them, just to make sure our students and staff are staying safe. I've shared with you the current numbers of students enrolled at home and face-to-face, but also wanted to let you know our COVID dashboard reports that we have 14 staff members that have positive. I said both, and I was supposed to say both. We have 14 student and staff members that have positive cases in Belton ISD, and we report that information on our dashboard. I want to very publicly say why we do what we do on that one too. We do not break it down by grade level and by specific distinction, whether or not it's staff or students, because we also want to protect the identities of the people involved in their medical needs and all of this. So we wanted to make sure that the dashboard that we have uploaded is providing parents with timely information, so it's updated daily, and it very clearly says the number of active cases per campus, but we do not get into specifics by grade level or by staff versus student, just to simply protect people's identity in all of this. And last, dashboard and communication I just covered there. March 17th, 2020, you provided a resolution that was adopted here, and those items that we said we would report every time. I do not believe from Jennifer or Todd that we have anything to report it this month. In the next section of our superintendent's report is on goal 1. So Dr. Golden came up and presented to you all last month, and I'm going to ask her to come up again and help me out with our goal 1 section real quickly. We had a timeline that we laid out for goal 1 in developing the portrait of a graduate, and so I wanted to talk real briefly tonight about a couple of items. This was a goal that you adopted back in June, and then we adopted the key progress measure in August, and that goal is listed there along with the key progress measure, and you see that portrait of a graduate or journey of a graduate will be created and adopted before the end of this coming year. So I want to answer 3 brief questions on why are we doing this now, what are we doing, and how are we doing it. Real quickly on the why, I know a lot of people probably wonder why we would actually go out to our community and get this feedback right now. I argue that this is actually the perfect time to do that because we have just opened up 2 new campuses in Belton ISD, and one of those happens to be a high school. That fundamentally changes things in Belton ISD and will for the future. Having a discussion about which direction the board in our community want our schools to go seems very timely and appropriate for that reason. There are other items listed there, a couple that I'll point out. Obviously, you know that we're a growing school district, but in a growing school district, as you have more and more people move in, you also need to more and more clearly articulate our values and priorities as a school district to make sure that all of our systems are pointed in the same direction. This process helps us with that. Finally, making sure that this board of trustees and this current administrative team are able to work together and adopt the direction for the future allows us to thoughtfully plan. So this journey of a graduate that you're going to see a couple of examples of in just a minute should help us in everything that we do, from budget allocations to facility design to ensuring that our staffing meets the needs of what we want for the school district moving forward. So that's the big why behind this right now. I've made sure I shared with you all a couple of videos. One of them was about the world of work and how the world of work is changing right now. If you haven't watched that video, I encourage you to do it because it's eye-opening. In that video, it shows you how automated some of our systems that we all relied on in the past to have human interaction, how automated they've become. I'll just use a personal example for myself. I grew up in a farming community. I had cows and cornfields on both sides of my high school, and I never imagined that I would see tractors driving around without humans driving those tractors. And in that video that is shared there, you see that those tractors are actually being controlled through GPS and stuff and some of these things. So it's a good learning experience, a good thought-provoking experience if you haven't seen that video. And that's another why. that why behind our jobs are changing, our future is changing for our students, and we have to set that direction moving forward. The next slide talks a little bit about, provides you a couple of quick examples of what this profile of a graduate or journey of a graduate might look like. The two on the left are from out-of-state examples, and the one on the right is from Alamo Heights ISD down in the San Antonio area. In all of these, you see that there are not like a 45-page document with a lot of information. This is really about a process to give us high-level information that points us in a direction for what we want for our kids for the future. Really about a hopes and dreams discussion for each and every student in our system. These documents are created, and our process is going to allow us to create this that is very reflective of our community. We want to not copy something from another district, but we want to get the information and the design that is best for Belton ISD in this whole journey. And finally, where Dr. Golden's going to help me out here is about the process. So she outlined in a timeline for us last month, and these 4 phases that you see in front of us, Dr. Golden can provide a little bit of detail for you all on.
And actually, I'd like to elaborate on the why just a little bit. And so we have 5 children, my husband and I. Been blessed to have a son who served our country in the military, so I was there for his swearing in. I have children that have attended community college, state colleges, both in the state of Texas and outside of Texas. And then also, some of my children went straight into the workforce initially. And one of the things that struck me, no matter where I went, whether it was the swearing in and listening to them talk to the parents, whether it was at an orientation for a college or community college, or it was my child getting a job, one of the things that really hit me as an educator is it was much more than just deep academic knowledge acquisition. That's incredibly important, but it was also about these skills that they had to have to be successful. Things like communication, critical thinking skills, all of these things that people call either 21st century skills or soft skills, which I don't think are soft at all. I think they're incredibly important skills as our students go into the workplace. And so I'm super excited about this work, feel very passionate about it. The process, really, we broke it down into 4 phases: plan, activate, create, and adopt. Although the key progress measure says we'll be adopting by June of 2021, we really believe that's going to most likely be January of 2021 because the planning process has started. We are in the process right now of creating a Journey of a Graduate design team. We hope we have 100+ members on that team, and we're seeking your help in identifying some of those members, and I'll talk about that in just a second. But we want this design team to have teachers, paraprofessional staff, administrators. We want community members, both that are identified at each individual campus, but also that you help us identify. We're asking our board to identify 2 members. It could be from faith-based organizations. It could be other civic organizations in the community, higher ed, some of our social service agencies. But those are just some of the areas we hope that you'll help us identify members, and we hope you'll be able to participate as well. The design team will meet 4 times. There are 4 meetings with some ways to engage the entire community in between, whether that's through some surveys that we're going to do or thought exchange work. Those details haven't completely been worked out, but there will be opportunity for everyone to have input, and then this design team to take that input and to develop, whether we call them competencies or attributes, but we want to know what are the hopes and dreams and aspirations of our community, both internally in the district and all the communities in which we serve, so that we can identify this journey of a graduate that is specific and intentional in serving the students of Belton ISD. We've been calling it Journey because this is not a portrait of a graduate only for high school or 12th grade. This really begins in pre-K. This is our commitment to our families from pre-K all the way to really post-graduation, because we hope these competencies and attributes only continue to grow even after graduation. And so we hope that we will have a draft of some visuals similar to what Dr. Smith showed you a few minutes ago, but there'll be our visuals and what we create and design, and hope to bring those to you in January for possible adoption.
What is the timeline for submitting those names?
If possible, if we could have that by the end of this week, I think the 23rd, because we'd like to be able to send out invitations to those that you recommend, as well as who we get from campuses, so that we, and I'll confirm the dates with you of those 4 committee meetings or design team meetings. And we have a meeting with our facilitator this week on Wednesday morning to confirm the dates. And as soon as we have those confirmed, they'll go out. Again, it's 4 meetings. They'll be held in the evenings from 6 to 8, and they will be held virtually. So we'll be using Zoom to facilitate those conversations.
Okay, and so the board would just need to submit any names that they have to Connie then,
Yes,
by the end of this week?
that would be great.
Awesome, thank you.
And we really do encourage y'all to, you know the community, you're elected by the community, you know the community, and if you have some people that you think would be great to serve on this and that would like to provide their input, please encourage them. We would love to make sure we have many voices in this. As Melinda said, we would like to have over 100 people in the school district actually serve on this design team, because that will allow us to ensure that this isn't something that that new superintendent guy is doing, that this is something that this community is doing. And I think that that's a really, I say it jokingly, but I say it very deliberately, because I think it's important to respect and understand the voice of the community in something like this that is such a directional setting document for us moving forward. Next steps regarding this for you all, again, the names, as Melinda said, I would ask you to also start thinking about what hopes and dreams you have for the students of Belton ISD for the future. In a rapidly changing world, in a time where students are, the typical education model has changed overnight. What are your hopes and dreams that you have for every student that walks in our door from that first pre-K day to the day they leave us crossing the stage their senior year? What would you like to see for them? And your voice is going to be greatly appreciated along the way in these design team meetings, but you will also have other opportunities to include your voice as well. Ultimately, this is a document that we want the board to adopt. So there's going to be an official adoption of this that we will kind of codify for the future. And again, this is now because it helps us set direction for the future and should allow us to align everything that we do curriculum-wise, facility-wise, budget-wise with what our community and our board desire for our kids. And I think that's the end of the superintendent report, if y'all
Okay.
have any questions.
Y'all have any questions? Nope. All righty then. Next item is board request for new information and/or reports. Does the board have any requests for new information or reports? I will go ahead and point out an envelope that's sitting on your tables. It's from Patillo, Helt, Brown, and Hill. This is something that we do every year. Typically, it's mailed to our homes. You all have it there on your tables there. If you'll fill out that survey and then mail it in as quickly as possible. Next item on our agenda is calendar of events. I want to just call out some real special events. One being Wednesday, the 21st, which is Dr. Smith's birthday. Happy birthday.
Thank you.
This is for you.
Oh, thank you.
Not much. Happy birthday to you. We have any voices here? Anybody want to sing happy birthday to the doctor? No? Oh, come on. It's his birthday. Everybody gets a happy birthday song. Happy birthday to you. Join me. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, Dr. Smith. Happy birthday to you.
I want to thank you all for that and just remind you that that is now recorded and will be forever
That's
living on
okay.
our website. So I'm really excited.
That's okay. We're not scared. We're fearless. Okay, so also on October 21st is the Facilities Committee meeting at 4 o'clock. And then on November 2nd, we have a Policy Committee meeting. Wednesday, November the 4th, it's a Back and Better celebration from 5:30 to 7:30 at Belton Middle School. I don't have any data on that, but I'm sure somebody will fill us in.
And I'll, if you will allow me, I'll briefly tell you about that one. That is, so Belton Middle School is not a dedication ceremony because that that facility was dedicated years ago and has been in use in Belton ISD for quite a bit of time. But it is a back and better ceremony, so it's an opportunity to celebrate Belton Middle School and the opening of that middle school, and we would love for you all to attend. Additional information will be coming from our communications department. It looks like Elizabeth is making her way up right now.
Righty then.
The date is Wednesday, November 4th.
Did I not say that?
At the-
Wednesday, November 4th?
Perfect. Yep,
Okay.
5:30 to 7. Yes.
Okay. That day, that she said, and I said, and we all said it. Wednesday, November the 4th. Awesome. Well, thank you for that. So on Monday, November the 9th, we've got our third House session with Representative Shine at 7 o'clock a.m. On the same day, we have Veterans Day observed. BIC will be closed. November 11th is Veterans Day. Saturday, November the 14th is Beef, Boots, and Barbecue event at 5:30 at Chef's. And then Monday, November 16th, we'll come back here for a board workshop and regular meeting. And then, of course, BISD will be closed the 23rd to the 27th of November. Those are your calendar
Suzanne,
events.
I got a
Yes.
quick thing to ask. On that Hugh Shine thing, it's not exactly easy. You have to register for it, so if you're not sure how to do that, is it possible to get that link on registering sent to the board before each meeting? Doesn't matter when, but just curious
Thank
if we
you,
can do
Janet.
that, because it's not exactly intuitive on how to get that done.
Thank you. I actually requested a email link from Dr. Smith the other day, so thank you for pointing that out. All righty, so our next item is closed session. I'm going to call those things out that we're going to be talking about, but I will tell you that when we come back, we don't expect to take any action. We're going to go into closed session to discuss deliberation about real property, Texas Government Code, Section 551.072, consultation with attorney, Texas Government Code, Section 551.071, and personnel, Texas Government Code, Section 551.074, superintendent's formative evaluation and personnel update. Again, we don't expect to take any action when we come back from closed session. It is 7:28. This portion of the meeting is adjourned for a moment until we come back from closed session. Thank you.